see how many people are coming on here. Hello. Happy Saturday morning. No, it's actually straight afternoon. Amy and Rob here from Fresco Chocolate in beautiful, rainy Linden, Washington in the Pacific Northwest. What else would it be? We are standing outside our shop and we're going to take you inside for a little peek that we just normally aren't open all the time. So come on in.
All right, I am going to turn the camera around. Hi. All right, everybody. This is our little neighborhood, by the way. Not much going on here these days, as is probably true with your neighborhood. Okay.
Lock the door so no one can come in.
All right. Okay, so we have a very, very small little space here. We use this. There's a little front room that we're standing in. We use this as our pop-up store, and we do a pop-up store rather than a full-time retail type of store because we are in a very small town. It's a rural area in Pacific Northwest Washington, and there's just not a lot of foot traffic. It really doesn't lend itself well to doing any kind of full-time retail. So on holidays or whenever, we'll do a little pop-up here and there, and otherwise we'll just be making chocolate in the background. Yeah, hey guys, it's fun. Thanks for coming. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick turnaround. Here's our little, very, very small pop-up. There's Amy, and that's it. That's our little front room. Now, we're going to take you behind the curtain, and that may sound mysterious, but it really is a curtain, you can see. So it's just a curtain. There's nothing special about it. Now, before we go back there, I need to tell you, here, let me flip the camera around so we can be a little more intimate while we're talking. We have two locations. One is here. And the other location is down the road a bit. That's where we have our bean storage, where we do our bean cleaning, our roasting, and our winnowing. And so I can't really show you that. It would be a little bit too live to jump in the car and drive down the road with you. So what we're going to show you here is what we do after we get the cleaned, roasted nibs ready to make into chocolate. So I'm going to turn the camera back around and walk you down the hall.
Hi, Kim. Hi, Jim and Maureen.
Hey, guys.
Oh, this is my baby girl.
Oh, we got all kinds of people watching us here. How fun. All right, so we're here. We just walked past the curtain. This is our employee break area, i.e. refrigerator and microwave, and, of course, our entertainment center there, Mr. Google. Our business and shipping center right here. And over here, business and shipping supplies. Everyone's favorite Uline boxes. Back here, we moved past some supplies to bathrooms in there. We won't go in there. Hand wash sink. You know, guys, we were trendy and washing our hands before it was cool to wash hands, so you can say that about us. Let's now go into one of two rooms we have in this really small space. So I've got two rooms. The first room is where we do our chocolate grinding and tempering. And it's really small, as you can see. And I'm just going to walk you around a little bit and show you some of the stuff we've got here. So this is kind of the main machine that we use. It's kind of a hybrid, strange little thing. I've taken a traditional stone melanger and I've built a convection oven around it. And there's a controller for it, and there's some heating and some air movement type of stuff. And basically, I've taken the melanger, I've adjusted the paddle mechanism so that I can throw the chocolate up in a stream of either hot air or cold air to control the temperature of the chocolate. And I use that mechanism for the flavor development. So the chocolate grinds in this machine, and then I can adjust the temperature of the chocolate up to a crazy hot temperature. I can go over 200 degrees Fahrenheit if I wanted to. I've tried that. The chocolate doesn't taste very good after that. It's sort of really flat and flavorless, but at least, hey, we can do it if we want to. So that's the Conch melange thing. After the chocolate comes out of there, it goes in through a sieve device. It's a motorized vibrating sieve. The chocolate gets poured through there and down into whatever we're going to collect it in for using it for what we use chocolate for. And the screen on this motorized sieve is fine enough to where it will collect anything that didn't get ground up in the grounder that should have. Bits of sugar, stems from the chocolate, the radicals. If there's any bits of shell that made it in that I didn't clean up in the winnowing process, those will get trapped. So basically catches stuff you don't want to eat in your chocolate bar. After that, we either mold the chocolate into blocks, which you'll see in a bit, or we put it directly into the tempering machine. And Amy is here. She'll
wearing the cool hat, right?
Got the hat on. We're going to show you the tempering machine. This is a very small tabletop Savage Brother tempering machine. It's supposed to hold about 50 pounds, but 50 pounds is pretty full. We usually stick to 40, 45 pounds. I think there's about 40 pounds in there right now. That's a, what is that, Polo Cheek? Polo Cheek Valley, Guatemala.
Nope, Ghana.
Light roast Ghana, 68%. That's spinning around in there, getting ready for us.
Always label your chocolate.
Always label your chocolate. We have a sophisticated mechanism called index cards. And wherever we're at, we always write up a little index card and throw it next to the machine so we know what we're working on and we don't forget. You can see that this is a really ridiculously small space, and our sinks are right next to the tempering machine, so we definitely don't do dishes while we're molding chocolate. That's a big no-no. Humidity, water, all kinds of bad stuff.
Lid is always on.
So, when the chocolate is molded through this pipe, there's some molds here and some molds up here. When the chocolate gets molded, it goes on to this vibrating table, which is located on this funky little through this funky little hole in the wall. And when we go into the next room, you can see what's on the other side of the wall. Now, if you're asking questions, hold off. Don't hold off, but keep asking them. I'll have to answer them later when we get settled and we start talking a little more intimately in the front room. This is just a kind of a prototyping area. If we need to do some hand tempering, that's a little holding pot. I can hold the chocolate that's tempered at a particular temperature. I do hand tempering if I need to do any kind of small test batches. It's more, I don't know, I just like it more than those small tabletop tempering machines. Okay, so we're going to go from that room into what we call the cool room. And we call it the cool room, well, because it's cooler than the other room. You can see the temperature there. We keep it cool because we have a refrigerator built into the room here. And we use this room for a number of things. We first bring the chocolate that's been molded on the other side of the wall on the vibrating table here. The filled molds get vibrated, pulled through, and then get put on the rack for the chocolate to solidify and to harden up. And then we demold them into bars.
So it's usually a two-person process. I'm on the other side doing the tempering and filling the molds, and then our employee Laura, hi Laura, who we can't do without, she's on this side shaking it, like Rob said, making sure it gets all into the corners and putting it up here.
And there you go. We also have a dehumidifier constantly running. Being in the Pacific Northwest, there's all kinds of stupid humidity here, so keeping things below 50 or 60% humidity is always a challenge. Bar wrapping is done here by hand, of course. There's some storage over there, some chocolate blocks aging, waiting to be molded into bars. A few bars on the shelf there, and a refrigerator. Now, you might ask, why do you have a refrigerator in a cold room? Well, we didn't always have a cold room. We first started using the refrigerator as the place where we molded the chocolate bars. So now it's just storage, but we use it for as a backup as well in case our room refrigerator ever breaks.
Which has happened once.
It's happened once, yeah. So you see some fans, actually they're computer fans that are on the back wall there. I've set them up to run at a kind of a slow speed, and basically when we are molding chocolate and letting it harden and solidify in here, we blow cool air across the chocolate and get the heat removed from the chocolate fairly quickly. I've also got a controller in here that you can't see it very well. It controls temperature, and I control the fans so I can adjust the humidity as well to keep it where we want it to be. All right, we're going to walk back to the front, and I'm going to get set up here at this little table, and then we're going to talk a little bit about making chocolate. All right, so Amy's going to take over the camera person position. We're going to go to our professional video recording studio that we set up here in our small chocolate shop, and we're just going to talk about making chocolate. Let's do that for a bit, shall we?
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, Rob was the genius at thinking of that idea of having that pass-through wall. Definitely.
It's really kind of a low-cost version of a cooling tunnel. It's a manual tunnel. We sort of tunnel it through ourselves.
Barbie calls it the secret door.
The secret door, yeah. An escape hatch.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Yes, cutting boards under the feet of the tempering machine. You know it.
Yep. Learn from experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit about making chocolate. Now, if you are just watching me for the first time here, you don't know who I am. Hi, it's nice to meet you. If you've been to chocolate festivals and we've met before, thanks for coming back. If you've been watching some of the stay-at-home chocolate videos, you've been seeing a lot of chocolate makers, a lot of cool factories, some bigger, some smaller. Ours is definitely on the smaller side. I think between me and Ben, we probably are tied for the smallest factories, non-home-based factories. Ben doesn't count anymore because he has a place away from his home, out of his basement. But what I want to talk to you about here in the next few minutes is what we do, how we make chocolate. That may be a little bit different than what other people do. I'm going to give you our insights, some of the things that we do and that we've learned, and then we've got questions. So Amy is raising her hand saying a question, so go ahead. What is the question?
At what temperature do you cool the bars?
Oh, at what temperature do we cool the bars? Usually in the low 60s, upper 50s. Depends on the chocolate. 100% chocolate versus 70% can take a little bit different depending on the cocoa butter content. But typically we can set the room for 62, 65 Fahrenheit at the top end, as long as the humidity is low, and we're good to go.
Valerie's asking, what do you see as a benefit of adding convection oven to the melanger instead of having a separate conch?
What do I see as a benefit? Well, as an engineer, it was fun to make. That's one benefit. So when we started in 2003. I got my first bag of cocoa beans, Venezuelan, Carnero Superior. I didn't know what in the world I was going to do with 70 kilos of cocoa beans. I had a little tabletop grinder that most chocolate makers at home start with or use, and I just kind of pieced things together. I realized I needed a way to heat up the chocolate and conch it. Conching was kind of a weird concept. Nobody really would talk about it in the chocolate industry. It was definitely not as open back then as it is now. People wouldn't share what they were doing. And so I kind of figured it out on my own. And as an engineer, it was kind of fun to tinker and make things. And so I ended up making that mechanism to heat the chocolate. Now, is it better than other types of conches? I don't know. It's different. It works for me, and it works to the level that I'm able to do something with conch levels, which I'll talk about here in just a second. Yeah, another question.
Barbie's asking, what temperature is the chocolate in the conch?
Well, that depends on the stage. So if I'm at the grinding stage early on, the chocolate just naturally, it's just air temperature, room temperature. So you're going to have a little bit of friction in there. The chocolate will heat itself up through grinding and friction to 120-ish degrees. If you keep it at 120 for too long, if you let it just sort of populate upward or migrate upward from 120 to 130, it's gonna start to lose some of its flavor, or the flavor is gonna change. And you can tell by the aroma. I conch by smell. I know that a certain bean is going to behave better at a lower temperature. I'm going to leave more of the natural flavors intact. So once I get past the grinding stage at that 120 to 130 degree range, then I will purposely raise the temperature to something. And depending on the beans, depending on if I'm going for a longer conch, I'll do maybe a higher temperature that does conching more quickly. It basically is evaporating volatiles, acetic acids, and changing the flavor of the chocolate. If you do that too much, you lose the flavor of the chocolate completely. If you don't do it enough, some beans, it's perfect. You don't need any additional heat. They're beautiful. They taste wonderful. Other beans, maybe have an off note you want to try to get rid of, and you can kind of smell that coming off of the chocolate as you heat it up. So I will heat it to, in some cases,
Conch by smell.
Conch by smell.
Yes, opening chocolate.
180 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius, that would be ridiculous. 180 Fahrenheit, and that is kind of where I'm gonna end up with some of my chocolate. Thanks, Barbie. That was a really long answer to a short question.
Okay, so Josh is asking through Amber, how difficult is it to get the beans, and do you need an inside source, or have to be a certified chocolate maker to get them?
No, anybody can buy beans, number one. There's places on the web where anybody can buy small quantities, a couple of pounds of beans, and just have fun and play at home. Plug for John, Nancy, ChocolateAlchemy.com. Absolutely cool if you want to buy a couple pounds of something and just play. And there are many companies that now exist that are really reputable companies that will sell bags of beans to, you don't have to be a chocolate maker. You can just be somebody who wants to have them for bean bags around your house. I don't know. They're not very comfortable, but yes, anybody can buy beans. We buy a lot of our beans from Uncommon Cacao. Really great folks. They're right on site with a lot of the farmers and help control the fermentation. And we've always had good luck with that.
And Bertel.
And Bertel.
And
yes.
the Pearsons.
For our Madagascar exclusively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the Pearson family for
Pearsons,
the Marignon.
Yeah, and some others for Venezuela. Kind of depends on the origin.
Okay.
More questions, yeah.
One more, and you think this is kind of a segue, and we paid her to do this, but no. She says, tasting suggestions for your chocolate bars, since you work the same origin/variety in a different way.
Okay.
That's
wow,
where we're
that
headed.
really leads into the next topic.
It does. Thank you.
So, I'm going to show you, and I'll let Amy control the camera here so we can get the stuff on camera. I have here a cocoa pot. It's actually not a real one. It's a hand-carved wood one that a friend of ours, who's an artist, made for us. He made several of them for us. I think this one is might be purple heart, and this one is yellow heart. He used exotic woods that were the color that we were trying to get out of the beans, or out of the pods, and just used a lacquer on them without a stain or paint. Really like them. So we use them for demos. Here
Phenomenal job.
We use them in demos here in our store. So this one comes apart, shows the cocoa beans inside. Those are carved wood, obviously by hand. And so those beans come out. They are fermented, dried. I won't go through all that process in detail because we'll run out of time very quickly. We end up with cocoa beans after they're roasted that look like this. The winnowing machine takes the shell off and leaves the nib inside, which is what goes into the grinder you saw, along with sugar, and if you make milk chocolate, milk powder. If you make other kinds of chocolate, whatever you put in there goes into your chocolate. And some nibs here. So the roasting. I'll bring this is my shameless plug for how I roast. Here's one example of roasting. I do 3 roast levels on the same chocolate bar. So this is a this is a Polochic Valley, Guatemala. And on that bean, I use the same recipe, which means the same sugar content, the same little bit of extra cocoa butter for texture and flavor and mouthfeel. And then I roast the beans differently. I do a light roast, a medium, and a dark roast, and the flavors are actually completely different. You wouldn't know that they're the same cocoa beans, same origin. It's really a lot of fun. On the lighter side, the lighter roast in general, this is kind of generalization, but it's a nice place to start. On the lighter side, you end up roasting less, so you leave some of the natural acidity in the cocoa bean, which gives you a sometimes a fruity note, sometimes other notes come through. As you roast darker, some of those fruitier notes tend to subside, and you get perhaps more roasted, nutty, chocolatey, some earthiness may come out.
We're getting lots of love.
Depends on the beans. Thanks everybody for your parts and questions and stuff. We'll try to get to all the questions we can. So that's what we do. I love to roast beans differently, and then we make these the same chocolate, same origin chocolate out of different beans. Next, for example, I have a Ghana 68%, which I've done a light roast, and a dark roast, and those as well, completely different flavor profiles. I didn't do a medium. I tried a medium as well. When I do my experimentation on a new origin, I try all kinds of ranges of roast, from raw to completely burnt, and I make small test batches out of all of those roasts just to see what the chocolate would taste like. The difference between a medium and a dark wasn't that much. It really didn't make sense to have another variety of those. So I just stuck with two there, the light and the dark. Question?
So Coco Crazy says, I love that approach. Really explores the full potential and spectrum of flavor of each origin.
Thank you. That's what we try to do. So, voila. The other thing we do... Oh, more questions.
Another question. Which origin is your favorite region? You're asking us to choose our favorite child.
Yeah, it's like, come on. I like my third child better than my fourth child. I can't answer that.
That was a good answer, because it was our third child that asked that question.
Oh, this kid. I don't have a favorite, to be honest with you. It kind of depends on my mood. Amy has a favorite. What is your favorite, Amy?
Well, I have... my ultimate favorite is the Venezuela Blend. Right here, that one. And then the Ghana Dark Roast, and the Polo Cheek Medium, and Dominican 224.
So your favorite is like 5 favorites?
Yes.
Okay. That's probably would be my answer as well. It depends on my mood. If I'm in I want a roasty, darky kind of a mood, I'll go for maybe a dark Polo Cheek.
Sorry, Amber, you're making me giggle.
We have lots of interesting comments that I can't see.
Yes, you can't see. Okay, so a couple questions. I'm just going to add.
Yeah, questions.
I'm just going to say a couple of them.
Go ahead.
Have you ever tried to purchase right from the producers? And do you think affects flavor the most terroir, roast, or conch? What do you think affects? Sorry, I left one word out.
What do you think? Yeah. Okay.
So you got the producer question, and what do you think affects flavor the most? Terroir, roast, or conch?
So have I purchased direct? Yes, in small quantities. It's not very cost effective unless you're going to bring a container load in, which is 11 metric tons-ish. And so unless you have need for that much, or you're going to distribute it amongst other folks, there's a lot of logistics to worry about. That's why we go through folks like Uncommon Cacao or others. They take care of the logistics, and we can buy 3 bags or a half a ton or a ton of something and not have to worry about huge quantities. Well, huge quantities for us anyway. But yes, I have. Mostly the Venezuelan. I've been able to get bags of Chihuahua and Comari out of Venezuela directly, with help of some local folks down there, chocolate maker friends, but it's kind of hit and miss. It's spotty. The quality is sometimes good, sometimes not. Again, going through somebody who brings the beans in and does the quality control on the beans and on the fermentation is going to allow you to get better consistency and better quality overall, unless you're a large enough chocolate company to do that yourself. Some are, we're not. Okay. The second question was terroir versus. Do I have my? I don't have my Marignan. So terroir. Oftentimes, terroir is going to be very similar to year over year. Depends though on the seasons, the rainfall. I've had this particular bean, Marañón Valley, Peru, year over year has been incredibly different. And so, in fact, a few years ago, I did a 2014 versus 2015 harvest comparison, and I actually branded those two bars separately as two harvest years, as a way of telling the difference between, or experiencing the difference between two. And did I get a 5-minute warning?
You did.
Oh, okay. How much time do we have?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay.
But I have another question.
Yeah.
From our new friends in the Czech Republic that we met up in San Francisco.
Hey, guys.
She's asking...
I love your milk bar, by the way.
Yes.
It's really good.
You guys check them out. They're so good. How much approximately do you process beans per year?
Per year, we're super small in the chocolate world. We will do maybe 2 tons a year at the very most. This year it'll be a little bit light because of obvious reasons. Everybody's slowing down a bit, but 1.5 to 2.5 maybe is kind of our range. I mean, you saw from the factory size that you can only get so many pounds of chocolate through one of those machines at a time. It takes a couple of days to 3 or 4 days to grind, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So there's a physical limitation. That's what we do. So what I'm going to do now is
we may go over a little bit, you guys. Sorry.
We'll do that. I'm going to grab the camera. I'm going to turn it over here and look at this little table, just to give you an idea of kind of the range that we have and what we do. There's the Venezuela Blend that Amy mentioned she liked. It's a blend of Chual, Ocamari, and Penteo beans. Really nice flavor profile. There's a whole story behind that, which we don't have time to tell, but they're really interesting. Text me separately, and I'll give you the scoop. Here's the Ghana and the Polachik that we mentioned. There's some Madagascar. Really fruity, really bright. We do a very light roast on it, and it comes out really, really fun. We do an Oco Caribe, Dominican Republic, which is kind of one of our staple bars. It's just consistent and lovely. And then the Marañón, Peru. We also do some funky stuff that's not single origin chocolate. We work with a local candy shop and make this stuff called cocoa Nib Brittle. For this batch, I took my Ghana nibs. I did a super light roast on them, and then we used a peanut brittle recipe in their 100-year-old copper fire roaster kettles and made this brittle-like stuff with cocoa nibs. Really fun. We take our single origin chocolate and do chocolate covered cornflakes. Here in the Pacific, and potato chips, these little bags. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we are the raspberry capital of North America, and I know that because there's a sign down the street that says we are. So we do a raspberry bark kind of a thing. We also do a white chocolate version of that, but I don't make my own white chocolate, so just ignore that. And we do a drinking chocolate, which is usually a blend of different chocolates that we grind up and mix into a blend into a powder, and away you go. Also, we do some 100%. I've got a 100% Oco Caribe, 100% Madagascar, 100% Polachik Valley, Guatemala, and 100% Ghana, and 100% Marañón, Peru. I typically will do a 100% bar. Let me turn the camera around so we can see you, or you can see us anyway. We can't see you. We'll typically do a 100% bar out of each origin that we have, just because it's kind of fun to do the comparison. And
C-Shop District. Hey, we just talked about you guys, C-Shop.
Hey, C-Shop.
There's the one that we do the Nib Brittle with.
Yeah, hey guys, good to see you. We have not much time, do we?
No.
Where are we? We are at,
Should we go over, you guys?
No. There's other people behind us. I know some have gone over, but we want to respect everyone's time. So, last thing I'm going to tell you here, we have a really high tech.
Turn it around the other way so it's not backwards.
Oh yeah, we have a very high tech sign, which Amy will hold up for you. There we go. So if you go to our web store, frescochocolate.com, and do the code HOME CHOCOLATE, all uppercase, It's 30% off of the what we call tasting kits, which are the 3 Ghanas, sorry, the 3 polo cheats and the 2 Ghanas, the light, medium, dark roast and the dark roast, light and dark roast, and then the 500%. So those are in the store. You can check them out. Grab them if you're so inclined, and turn the camera back around for the closing
and just
remarks.
We have had quite a few questions with the 100% lately. Is that people wonder if there really is like cocoa butter in it or sugar in it, and we assure you that there is 0 sugar, 0 cocoa butter in it.
Yeah, it's just cocoa nibs all
Just
ground
cocoa
up.
nibs. So it's very diabetic friendly, keto friendly, Whole30 friendly. Just if you're getting off of sugar, you totally can you can eat it.
And it's shellfish free too.
Oh yes.
Remember that. All right, guys. It's good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. It was fun to talk about chocolate and show you a little bit of what we do. You guys have a great day, and see you around.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Guys.